Have you ever wanted to be a published author, but you just don't know how to start? We're going to find out today on the Believe Retreat. Let's bring on my co host, Francine, and also our special guest today, Diane Pratt. She is a certified life coach, Reiki master, and the editor of an upcoming anthology. We're going to talk about how we all got started. Francine and Diane, it's great to see you.
Hello, everybody. How are
Hello,
you
everyone.
doing?
So great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I love how we don't have to worry about distance because tell everyone where you are, Diane, located.
So I am in Westchester, New York.
There you go. And how quickly can you get to downtown Manhattan?
Manhattan's about a 25-minute train ride. If that,
Nice.
yeah. And of
Well,
course,
great.
driving about an hour and a half.
Oh, yes, of course. And traffic. Well, Diane, the reason why I invited you on here is because currently you are curating an anthology. And let me show our promotional thing, which has the title. Here it is. Um, 25 ways to become unshakable after experiencing loss. And is it still grief sucks?
It's death sucks.
Death sucks. Yes. So I just wanted to share that with everyone, that Diane, and that's how I met Diane through a mutual friend who's a coach and has a community. But before you were looking for authors to be a part of Death Sucks, just tell us again how your coaching career started, and then we'll go back to your experience as a writer. Okay, but let's start with the coaching.
Okay. So my background is retail. I was always in the field. When I got tired of the field, I went into corporate office, and but it always entailed coaching. And the type of coaching I did wasn't just company information. It really was one-on-one to the human side. So when I was in the field and you managed a store and you had a sick child, a sick family member, how do you concentrate on making your figures, um, taking care of your team, and being there for the customer, and at the same time worrying about your baby or husband or whoever that is, or wife, because men were involved as well. And that really gave me a great foundation on how to coach to the personal need of a person.
Oh, beautiful.
And that's yeah, so I did that for about 25 years. I was in that industry. And in retail, it's all about the human side, or at least when I came up, it was all about the human interaction.
Yes.
And so that was a great foundation for my training prior to getting my certifications.
Right. And in addition to your certifications, of course, a lot of times things happen in our lives that really pour
Mhm.
into that so that we can add so much value from our lived experience. What about your lived experience piece that helped with the coaching and even the book?
So my lived experience is that my husband passed away unexpectedly.
Mm,
And in business, when you have an immediate family member, a spouse or child, you get about 2 days, maybe 3 days of bereavement.
mhm.
And then the expectation from society and everyone else is that you're la-di-da back to normal. Well, life is not normal. The routine, everyone's life goes on as normal, but our individual life is not normal. And I had a great boss. He said, take as much time as you need. It ended up to be about 3 weeks, and then I actually got bored. And my first day back to work, um, because we were a leased apartment, I did have an office in the department store at that time. I was out in the field. And the secretary for that department walks in and says, we're celebrating so and so's birthday. Would you like a piece of
Mhm.
cake? And I just broke into
Ah,
tears the last thing my husband and I did was celebrate our birthdays.
Oh,
So I trigger without it just, and of course, beginning of bereavement, you cry for lots of things because everything reminds you of the situation or of the person. And she, of course, was she was like shocked. She didn't expect that reaction, and neither did I. And I just heard someone say she just lost her
yeah,
husband. And, and so that goes on. And then, of course, I noticed that friends and even family members that were not that close, because our grieving and bereavement, the intensity is depends on the closeness of the
yeah,
relationship.
yeah,
Because, even siblings that are 10 or 15 years apart, and whether a brother or sister dies, if they were not close, they're not going to grieve and as intensely as the sibling that's only 2 or 3 years apart from the one passed, because they had a different relationship.
yes.
And so, that's my past experience. And then one separate from that, we were at a retreat maybe a year or so later. People knew I was married. They hadn't met my husband, but they had known, and they also knew that he passed. And everyone is sharing what their other half
Mm.
does, and making fun of it, like just bantering. And I said, yeah, my husband loved the color pink, and he loved to iron and do the laundry. And, as a wife, I was grateful because I really don't like doing those things, but it was relaxing for him.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole conversation died. Like everyone shut up. How do you make fun of a dead person?
Ah,
I mean, what would they say?
right.
What would they say? Right. So I realized that, and the silence seemed forever, but it was just a few seconds. So I broke the
Mm.
ice, and I said, here I am, the griever, and I have to worry about other people's feelings.
Yes,
That is not like that didn't make sense to me.
right,
And but that's how it is even today, even though it's less, but in the end, that's how that is. And so yeah, so that's my journey.
right.
And
So,
and so then I
what made you
go
want to
ahead.
put this anthology together?
Well, in today's world and society, there's more conversation around death and bereavement, and there is more information. And the book I'm writing is really for someone that has not gone through bereavement, and to understand what that is. Because I also have friends that are 40 and 50 years old and still have their parents, but have not really had a very close loss that it would affect their life the way bereavement does and grief does. And so it's really it's a yeah, it's an instruction on what bereavement is and how it affects us.
Do you think it would be a good read for people as they have people in their life that may be getting older or have terminal illness or things like that? Do you think it will help to prepare them? Is that your intention, to maybe help them to prepare with how to deal with loss in a in a positive or constructive way so that it just doesn't take everything out of them?
It will help the reader to understand what they are going through. We do change our when bereavement, it's in the frontal part of our brain where we make all the decisions. So you know we can become forgetful. Different things can happen to us physically. So grieving is not just an emotional mental thing, it can be a physical thing. So it will help the person that is going through grief for their very first time, and it will help the person that has a friend that is going through grief understand why they are the way they are, which is not normal.
Right.
you know Normal in the sense of how you were before.
Right.
It's normal for the person grieving, but when society looks at it, it's not understood.
So this, I I love that you are sharing your experiences with a new audience by writing this book. And this would be a great chapter in the Believe You Can. Believe you can help
Mm,
somebody get over grief. So if somebody has gone through something like Diane has, then maybe you want to write about it to be that inspiration for somebody else who needs some help, who needs some, well, inspiration to say, you know what, this is normal. being
hmm.
being unnormal is normal for what I'm going through. And it's not only grief and
Exactly.
loss, but it's everything we go through. Menopause.
Mhm.
When women go through menopause, if they don't talk about it, they think, oh my God, what's happening to me? And then you talk to your friend who's going through the same thing, and you realize that being normal is really normal. So I love that we're
It's
writing these books to help share with everybody our experiences to let them know that being normal is really normal.
yes, yes.
That's a beautiful, you're right, it's an intention. And the point is, too, death is a part of life. So people can learn from this anthology from the number of people who share how they dealt with death and grief at any stage in life. It gives insight and understanding so that it provides comfort. Sometimes comfort comes from the knowledge that you have. So that is going to be very useful. I'm so glad that, to be a part of it. I shared a chapter, and let's go back even before you decided to take the gifts of writing about our experiences. How did you get interested in being a part of the literary arts as an adult? Tell us about the support that you were able to find for yourself.
Well, I always felt um, I always thought after my husband died that I did want to write a book and have more of an explanation. And there were books coming out, but it still wasn't a conversation. And then one day I was listening to Dwayne Dyer, and someone he was talking about writing books, and of course he was like, somebody asked me how to write a book, and I said, you just start. That's not generally the answer we're looking for, right? Because we have an idea that it takes different. And then what the other thing that he said was, what I do is I create the cover for my book,
Hmm.
and I simply put it on my desk. And the way I view Dwayne Dyer, because he did write a lot of books, I think he got downloads. So that was his gift. That once he started, the information just was downloaded and it came out and he wrote, and his book, however long it took, but that is. So I thought, so I did that. I created a cover. It was actually called Introduction to Grief or Grieving, something like that. And I just had it on my desk. And then one day, a friend of mine, she wrote a book and she got published. And I was like, well, okay, my cover's been sitting there. I should start. So I started, and I wrote it as an explanation. And then I was like, well, that's boring. So the number 25, are stories from participant co-authors. I call them
Yeah.
co-authors. And 12 stories are stories people experience death and how they dealt with the death. And 12 stories are people that experienced a loss or they're going through a hardship and how they're dealing with it. And it's not about coming out on the other side of the rainbow. It's about, this is life. I've chosen this, and this is how it is. And my intention is that when someone reads that story, because they could be in that situation, that they connect with it.
Yeah.
And, they would say, oh, you know, Joanna, because you did say you're a co author, you shared that. Joanna is going through that, and, she's living a great life, because they're going to Google you and find out all about your information. I can do it also,
Right.
you know. And then the 25th story is my story, My father died going on 2 years, and it is my experience. I'm sharing my experience between the death of my husband, how that affected me, and the death of my father. And both were totally different. And I thought when my father would die that I would fall apart, and I didn't. But I also intentionally created the last 3 years of his life, I created a calling him. I called him 2 or 3 times a week,
Mm,
and that was intentional.
good.
So I could have that bond with him and we could share. And he loved telling jokes, as silly as they were. And he would say, "Do you know this joke?" And I would say, "No," and I heard it 100 times. Um, but that was an intention. And so when he did pass, it was not as traumatic as I had expected it that it would be. And yes, I still miss him, and yes, it was sad, and yes, I cried. But there are different levels of bereavement, and one isn't more than the other. It's just how it lands for each person,
Yeah, so I like that,
you know.
the practical steps that you took so that you could share your story in this anthology that you're working on. Death sucks. And you that tool of creating a cover for your book to remind you, right? My intention is to be a published author, and that moved you to, okay, I guess I better start writing now. And then you had people that you could share feedback with, right? And work on your craft. So that's an important part of our anthology, Believe You Can. True stories of people who
Mhm.
thought they could do something and they did it. It's ongoing support. So that's why we wanted to make sure we could
Yes.
hear how the experience has been working for you, um, putting together an anthology, so people just know what to expect when they're part of something larger than themselves. You don't have to write an entire novel. You don't have to write thousands of pages. Just start with 1,000 words, and and
Mhm.
be a part of a community. That's what the our Believe Retreat is, a community, so that people can craft their storytelling, their writing, their
Mm,
description, and take their time doing it with supportive people who've been there and done that, published, to help
mm.
them with that path. And so tell us, so with this anthology, is this going to be your first time being a published author?
It will be my first time. Yes. And it will be the first time for some of the co-authors. So I'm excited about that for them because what I offer my co-authors is if they have a business, to have the business, the reference section, and to be also the reader can also contact them if they need the business, or their story resonates and they want to have further information. So yes, I'm very excited.
I love that part of the anthology, and here's why. Business owners need more visibility to get the word out about what they do. And sometimes
Mm,
we're not good at tooting our own horn. But when you get this
yeah.
group of authors together and you get to know each other during the writing process and you're promoting the book together, it's just natural that you promote what you're doing outside of the book. For instance, you are a Reiki master, correct? So when we're promoting
That's
you in a book, we could also promote you as a Reiki master.
And when
yes.
people find out,
I
especially where you're located,
Oh yes, I'm
I'm
located
sorry, I
in
think there's a
Bronxville, New
delay.
York. Is it okay
Yes,
now?
and so you can.
Uh,
Okay, yep,
I
it's a
mean,
little bit. Yeah, so I was just,
I'm located
go
in
ahead.
Bronxville, New York.
Yes, yes. So what I was saying is that when a person learns about, is so interested by the story that's in an anthology, and then they want to read up about the author, who shared their story. Um, they find out where they're located, and there could be some networking and connection, and you can even have a client. That's just an
Absolutely.
example, right? And so, do you have some ideas of events or whatever with the authors who are in your anthology, or do you have some things in mind to help market? Just curious.
So my intention, I'm about 80% complete. So my intention is that, the co-authors will be able to use the book, especially co-authors that have authored a book, and will be able to use the book as they wish to promote it, to promote themselves, to promote their business. And for the authors that have penned a book before, it's just one more book that they're part of. Not just, it is another book that they're part of, so they can say, I'm in, 5 books or 10 books or whatever that is, and they can promote it that way as well. My intention is to do readings in bookstores and libraries and whatever I can organize at that time, and for the local authors to be present so we get to share because it's a community. That's my vision. And and with Zoom, right, we don't have to be in person. With Zoom or any platform, like we're on stream, we could do this on a platform, and then everybody invites their guests, and we'll just put on a multiple speaker setting, and and have it that way. So
That
yes,
is a
many.
great idea.
That's the best part of having so many people working on a project together is you have the wealth of experience of everybody there. Because face it, getting that book on Amazon is only 20% of the process. The real work begins in promoting
Yeah.
the book. Amazon doesn't promote the book for you. The authors need to do that. So the more creative ways we could come up with to promote our books and each other, the more lives we can impact.
I like how you
Absolutely.
Yes, and I like how you said you envision. So you can visualize an event, in a bookstore or in a library where there's maybe a little semicircle of people, maybe an intimate setting, and an author, they're reading their chapter. But of course, there are 24 more chapters. And so the people, they're going to be intrigued. Well, what else is in there? I like this person. So I like the way that that you're visualizing that and seeing the possibilities. And that's so important in creating anything. First, you see it,
Mm.
and then you're taking steps toward it. And so I definitely look forward um, to finding ways to introduce the co-authors to the people that I know. That's what it is. It's introducing people into other communities, and if each author is promoting this on podcasts and
Mm.
events, it goes viral because of everyone's
Right.
effort.
Well,
Um,
for instance, Heidi, who isn't here today, she had an emergency at the house, but Heidi and I belong to different networking groups in Jacksonville, Florida. One
Yes.
gentleman is in one of Heidi's groups, and he's also in one of my groups. He heard us both talking about this anthology project, not realizing that we were talking about the same anthology project. I think it was kind of funny. He just signed with us. He is joining the team. Jeremiah, I can't remember his last name.
Yay,
Jeremiah,
Jeremiah!
he's going to be on the show soon. But what I'm trying to say here is that we all have our circle of influence. When we
Hmm.
bring a group of people together to promote each other, then my circle of influence of 100 people and your circle of influence of 100 people and Diane's circle of influence of 100 people, eventually we have a million people in our collective circle of influence. So it's not just the point that we're selling books. Wouldn't it be great if we could sell a million copies? The beauty of this is having an impact in
Mhm.
a million lives that will snowball and reach globally, because out of that million people who we all collectively know, they collectively know people too. Hey, I read this chapter in an anthology by by Joanna, and you just really need to read this chapter. Buy the book and read her chapter. And that's somebody in Great Britain. So now our book is in Great Britain, affecting and impacting lives there. That's the beauty of an anthology.
So, Diane, as we wrap up, is there a piece of advice that you would like to share with aspiring authors? Anything that, as far as just the value of being a part of an anthology and the experience that they can hope to get?
I would say, don't make yourself wrong if you set out to write an hour today and it's 10 minutes. It's better to write 10, 30 minutes a day than, an hour or 2 hours every day. Now, there are days where I can do that, and I have done that because my part of the book is almost complete. I'm working with the co authors now. But, every day I work on the book half an hour. So, half an hour, you can get a lot done. You can write 2 or 3 paragraphs, and before you know it, that your book is done, or your portion is done, or your section is done. And my my advice would be, put your thought on paper. Don't go back and correct yourself. Just put it all on paper, typing. When I say paper, I mean typing.
Yeah.
Just type it all out or handwrite it, whichever works. And then when you feel like you're done and you've said everything you want to say, then go back and reread it and reorganize it. But just get it out. Because if you get it out and then you come back and you correct it, it's I found it's a longer process, and it stops the flow.
Yeah.
That's just that's how it landed for me. And you know what, and that was hard, because when I go back to my English papers that I had to write, we, the way I did it, I wrote it, rewrote it, and rewrote it until I thought it was correct, right, or whatever but I would just say, don't make yourself wrong if you wanted to write an hour or two and you did 10 minutes. And then if you can, spend 20, 30 minutes a day on your book, and just get your information out, whatever it is you want to say, and then go back and rewrite it, reorganize it, and share it with someone that, or get feedback from someone that is on your side,
Mm.
because the subject matter may not be theirs, but they are enthusiastic that you're doing it, versus someone, grief and bereavement. Now there's more out there, and more people are talking about it, and more famous people are opening up. So one could say, well, what's your book going to do? And books on bereavement have always been there, but I know that my book and how I write there. I know the 25 stories that others are sharing are not on a shelf, right? So
Mhm.
don't worry about it. You could be the 100th book. There's a person out there that needs to hear what you have to say, so they're able to continue on their path.
I love that. That is a perfect way to put a bow on this. And I really admire your consistency and your discipline. You stay productive by being active. And that's what you've been doing, dedicating that time every day to work on the book. That is wonderful advice. Thank you again, Diane Pratt, for being with us. What is the best way that you would like for us to have people engage? Like Facebook? You're active on Facebook or?
I am active on Facebook under Diane Pratt.
Okay.
They can they can also text me at 914 8877.
Did you get that, Francine? So you can add it to the post?
I did not. I'm looking for her link on Facebook and I'm going to post that first.
Okay. And then I'm going to put, let me put in the chat so we can cut and paste that. Bloop. Thank
There
you
we
so
go.
much here.
Your Facebook.
All right. And let's give a shout out to your friend, Jenny Powell, a friend of Francine's, is watching us on YouTube. Just giving a shout out, some
Hi,
love.
Jenny.
And then, and here, here we are. So contact Diane Pratt.
So, Jenny, this is why I couldn't call you on the phone.
Deb. Okay. And then, yeah. So what's your phone number, Diane, again?
I can text me at 914 589 8877.
All right. 914-589-8877. Text, please. Boom. We've got that as well. Thank you. And so let's take a quick peek at next week before we wrap up for today. Um,
That
and this
is,
is,
that is not next week.
that is not next
That
week.
is
That's
that is
okay.
old. Yeah, that's old and over.
We'll have something for you.
Yes,
The
we will.
Believe
Yes, we will.
Sisters, we always have something for you because remember, everyone, if you can conceive something in your mind, then you can believe it in your heart and therefore achieve
Mm.
it, create it, doing it. So remember, from your head
To your heart.
to your hands,
Uh,
yes,
Yes, you
you
can.
can.
Yeah. Till next
Take care,
week.
everyone. Thanks so much for joining the Believe Retreat and our special guest, Diane Pratt. We love you.